It's Thursday, and you know what that means. It's 4020 not live, because last week we had a rant, and I think we're all much better for it. People seem to enjoy it, Phil, which is good. Some people have agreed with what we said, which is even more funnier. Some people who can't say publicly that they enjoy what we said is even funnier still. But we're on an even keel now. Rugby league's back. Leeds lost to Cass last week. Don't know how that happened. Wakefield have lost a coach. The Chester out people, I don't know what they're going to do now, because he's gone. 5 years in charge. Some ups, some downs. Were you surprised?
Probably not after what he said on Sunday, because we know that he's honest and he's open, sometimes to his own detriment. But I think when he came out and criticised the forwards, when he said we need some more money spending, he mentioned that there were 4 signings, he talked about a lack of quality. I think then you're probably at a point where even the management of the club start saying, I wish I hadn't announced that we'd made 4 signings. We may or may not have done, but we're not in a position to say that. You're criticising the amount of money that's been spent. Actually, we're breaking our backs to spend the amount of money that we are spending. And I think, again, the squad itself probably should be doing better in a league table than it is. And it's a results-driven business. He just hasn't seemed particularly happy this year. He's got a couple of players that he wanted. He's building some for next year that he knows are coming in, and 1 or 2 that are either leaving of choice or because they've got a better offer elsewhere. But it just seemed he'd almost got to the end of his own tether on Sunday evening, and I wasn't at the game. I only listened to it. Summarise on the radio seemed to know what she was talking about. I could be painting a picture, she was. But it just seemed to me, again, that giving away an 18-point lead in the fashion that they did, and what he said in the aftermath of that, he probably felt that he couldn't do any more. I'm pleased for Willie poaching, which is not to say I'm pleased that Chris Chester has left, because I think, as everybody has said who's dealt with him, he is a pleasure to deal with. I think Michael Carter's gone out of his way to say that he has left a legacy, and you always hope when somebody leaves that it's in a better place than it was when you arrived, and I think it probably is. But I've a lot of time for Willie poaching as a person more than anything else. I know you can speak about him as a legend of Wakefield, and how he will be given a bit of a honeymoon period, because people genuinely and desperately want him to succeed, because there is a lot of love for him at the club. But I just think he's a pretty wonderful human being who's been through a fair bit himself, health-wise, and he's now got a chance. And I really, really hope that it works out for him. I have a feeling if it, I don't know if it's been announced yet. Haven't been on social media for the last hour or so. It's good for my mental health. That Andy Last is probably going to end up at Castleford with Lee Radford. So that gives Willie the chance to even have his own team under him if he goes well. So yeah, I can understand why it happened. There is still going to be relegation this year, which again I think was unexpected at the beginning of this week, but because the people that run the game at particularly at Super League level can't decide if they want tea or coffee at a meeting. They can't decide if they want relegation or promotion, and it looks like we are going to have relegation. Whilst Lee clearly are in that ejector seat at the moment, Wakefield are getting a bit too close. So a long-winded answer to a very short question is no, I wasn't surprised, and I hope Willie makes a go of it.
I don't think it would be a trade secret to reveal that Wakefield probably do run everything on a very tight budget. That's what happens when you have an accountant in charge of things at the club, and that's not a bad thing, as we've seen with previous regimes at the club in the all too recent past. And Mr. Poaching will know that for sure, because he played under one of those regimes. Someone asked if it would be similar to Kieran Cunningham and his legacy at St Helens if it all goes wrong. And I don't think it will be. For one, Wakefield didn't win anything under Poaching as a player, or while he was there as a player. But you can guarantee there have been players at Wakefield since him who have not played when they've been fully fit. I know for sure that's the case. But I can guarantee you Willie Poaching played certainly in 2001 when he was nowhere near fit, which is why when he went to Leeds and won stuff, I was happy. Not that Leeds won stuff, but that he won stuff because he deserves it, because he ran his blood to water and all those other cliches you want to say. He certainly did that as a player. So whatever happens now, he's going to be the greatest Kiwi in charge of the club because he's only got Tony Kemp to beat. And no one liked Tony Kemp because he replaced Andy Kelly, and we all loved Andy Kelly. So whatever happens with Willie Poaching, he will remain in situ in his legendary status, if you will. If you can be a legend having only spent 2 or 3 years at the club, I don't know. But he will always be in the fans' affections, or the ones who are right-minded anyway. I said plenty of times when people have said and asked us, would you get rid of Chris Chester at this point and that point and this point? He's got plenty of credit in the bank from those 2 seasons where Wakefield just missed out on the playoffs. And, I still question the signing of Scott Griggs anyway, because I think Max Jarrett should have been given a longer chance in that position. But that's by the by. The problem is, as you say, it's result-based business. And in the last couple of years, the results have not been there. And people can drag up that record, which is appalling. Yes, there's been injuries. Yes, there's been COVID. Yes, the club have got integrity and play games, which other clubs may not do. But it doesn't matter. A loss is still a loss. There's no asterisk in the box saying 3 players had COVID, but, didn't play. It's irrelevant. I think he's never been shy in coming out and blaming players when he thinks they're to blame. I think, would the club regret some of their large chunk of salary cap being spent on certain players in the forwards who have always been luxury players when they play? Probably. I'd love to see what a certain coach who may or may not be interested in the job would do with a certain player in the forwards at Wakefield. I don't want to name him just in case he watches this and then has a go at us like he did at Scowen. It's sad, isn't it? Whenever anyone loses their job, it's sad.
Whenever anyone who's a good guy who loses their job, it's sad. Yeah, and he is.
As opposed to some people who lost their jobs in rugby league recently, it's not sad,
But you read into that exactly what you should have done.
But it's a sad reality of coaching, isn't it? You're only going to leave one way, and majority leave in this way. So we'll see what happens next. And obviously, the worry is for Chris Chester and anyone in that position is that where do you go back into the game? It's where are the job opportunities? There aren't that many of them. I mean, it might be even less if they get their way.
Well, I was going to say there's going to be less because something has to happen with the amount of money coming into the sport. The distributions are going to be lessened, which inevitably means fewer teams and fewer opportunities. So, the concern would be even as an assistant coach, where is he going to get back in again?
I should do that thing that all the websites have done now, which is bringing you a big list of people who could be the next coach of Wakefield Trinity, which is pretty much everyone who's not in work. I mean, the name linked with the job today by, I think it was Ross Eppinstall wrote the article, Brian McDermott.
He's Small's
very own, yeah.
No, I sort of get that, but what I would hope, again, is that, as we said at the beginning, Willie gets the opportunity to make a success of it, and the job is his, and I just think I haven't met too many people in the game that have got more dignity than Willie, both as a player and off the field. I do know that when he was assistant coach under Brian McLennan at Leeds, alongside Francis Cummins, he was extremely highly thought of. I think it's possible that should Willie make a success of it, we hope he will, and that he can pick his own staff, that there's an opportunity for Francis to get back in the game at Wakefield. I know they work very well together, still very, very friendly with each other, swap ideas a lot. And I think that would be to the benefit of Wakefield, that it's not just about necessarily the guy who, fronts up at press conferences every week and is interviewed by Sky because he's got head coach next to him. You have to have a team of people, and you have to have a team of people that can work together. Brian McDermott for me would be an ideal candidate because he'd have a genuine feel for the city. I think this is Willie's time.
It's going to be interesting. There's stranger things you remember. I think it was when Hull KR beat Wigan on their road to Wembley. Chris Chester specifically mentioned Willie Poaching in terms of their game plan for that victory. Or it might be in the semi-final against Warrington. I can't remember. He was one of them anyway. I hope he goes well. I'm not a big fan of appointing people just because they played for the club, but he was there already, so it's all right. It will be interesting to see what happens. The problem is, if you look back at last year, there was that story in the Mirror, was it, about the stuff going on within the dressing room. Whoever that mole was, I don't know if they've ever been outed or released. They might still be at the club, so that problem's still there. It's got to be hard on these people. It's got to be hard on the players for, to get them sorted. Some of them may not deserve to be there anymore. I don't know. I'm getting darker and darker here. It's great. But, they've got to move players out. It's almost, I've said this before. The problem with Wakefield in the past has been every season, the big churn of players. The problem in the last 3 years is the churn hasn't been there. And a lot of people some players may have got complacent. I don't know. It's hard to say. We don't want to throw players under buses and things, do we?
I think it's more to do with the fact that in a salary capped era, it's very hard. It's as hard to sign players and keep within budget as it is to release players when other clubs haven't got any budget. So, in the old days, if a player hadn't played well, you could put him on the transfer list. Well, that assumes that there are other clubs out there who have got the money to pay for him and bring him into their squad, and that you can't do that anymore. The worry for a club like Wakefield, which is the same for most clubs, is that if we persist with promotion relegation, if we insist on slumming down the leagues as the way ahead, then at some point Wakefield are going to have to make that horrible decision about, do we put every single penny we've got into the team to make sure we don't get relegated, and then do all the development issues around the foundation, around the women's game, around the building up the academy, which is where you really want to get your players from, redevelopment of the ground, clearly, which I know is a sort of a different pot of money if you can get hold of it. But every penny that would be earmarked for all of that solely goes into, can we get enough players so we finish one above a relegation slot? Yeah, and that's the cycle that's got to be broken for a club like Wakefield.
So Wakefield have got to recruit a new coach, and Radio Leeds have got to find a new analyst now because Willie Poaching will be too busy. Good news for her.
Might be two if Franny goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was when it was 18-0, I was thinking, hey, this is good. This, come on. I was going to send her a message saying you can do all our games from now on, but yeah, it's not the case.
Funnily enough,
well done, Huddersfield.
At 18-0, she was the person that said this isn't over yet. Must have known something.
She don't like Wakefield. Right, I tell you what, we're going to throw to our interview because I need to put some light on because it has got really dark in here. I look like I'm into some kind of video from the early days of the internet. Phil, introduce our guest because
I think you should put a candle on.
Like BBC Two when it launched. Very good. This is what people in the Tyne Tees region can see at the moment. Now their Masters is set on fire. They've got no telly or radio. How can they leave? Phil, introduce our guest because you know him better than I do.
I think we're very fortunate sometimes with the people that we get because they're extremely unassuming, but actually their contribution to the sport is massive. I've been fortunate to know our guest for, I'm trying to prolong the excitement, for a long time when he was involved with rugby league in the south of England. Then he was a key driver for Armed Forces Rugby League, and he is now the head of Wheelchair Rugby League. He's got a huge weekend coming up. He's got the Challenge Cup final on Sunday lunchtime, which is going to be on the BBC Red Button and iPlayer and all those other things that you can do on a click of a button. And it follows on from having England and Wales on there in the mid-season international, which we were both privileged to be at. So it's Martin Coyd, one of the great people of rugby league.
I'm going to go put the light on now because my picture is fading like Wakefield's chances as Scott Wicks didn't quite get hold of the ball. Here's Martin Coyd. We're talking about the Wheelchair Challenge Cup final coming up on Sunday. I should start. Should I call you Mr. Wheelchair Rugby League, Martin? What should I call you as your official title joining us on this podcast?
I'm absolutely fine with Martin.
Because it's the Wheelchair Challenge Cup final this weekend. And, we, as ever, we go straight to the top of these things to find out what's going on. It's Leeds Rhinos versus the Argonauts. Phil's representing Leeds, of course. Martin representing the whole game of Wheelchair Rugby League. I asked Wayne Bennett this question once, which was the worst question I ever asked him because it was a yes or no answer. But I've retooled it for you, Martin. How excited are you, Martin Coyd, for the Wheelchair Rugby League Challenge Cup final this weekend, Sunday in Sheffield?
Yes.
Don't we have Brian McDermott back on there?
The exact same answer he gave me, and then I thought, damn, I've got to think of another question now.
Really excited. I think with sport, as we're sort of we're trying to grow it, predictable and certain things are just fantastic. And the fact we have a mid-season Challenge Cup, it's sponsored by Betfred. It's part of the suite of competitions. It's becoming part of the calendar. It's becoming, it's the second time at EIS, and we just build this sort of, you build a culture around it. And because of the COVID pandemic, we couldn't have knockout rounds this year. We had to have a festival, and the top two teams from the festival, we gathered everybody there. We played short-sided games and eventually got to the top two, and Argonauts got through at the last game because Halifax didn't beat North Wales Crusaders by a big enough margin. So that was exciting and tension, and both teams had to work really hard to get here. Leeds are in great form. Leeds are in a great place and playing really, really well. And Argonauts, I saw them train last night. I was coaching Medway Dragons next door to them, and they're looking good. They're up for it, and everyone's looking forward to Sunday.
I think we should. I was going to say, I think we should ask where the Argonauts are from, just so that for any listeners who are tuning in for the first time, I think they've got a rough idea where Leeds is.
Yes, yeah, the Argonauts are from Dartford, and Wheelchair Rugby League, which is a fast-growing variant of the game, started in about 2005. Was the first time people pushed a chair in anger, having had the French start the game, or the variant of the game in 2002. Is growing quick, and there's different ways. So the Rhinos are connected directly with Leeds Rhinos and wear their gear and are part of that family. Whereas the Argonauts are a standalone, just Wheelchair Rugby League club. Where Dragons have a club which is part of the community running game club, and we've got this really nice mixture. There's no one size fits all, and the Argonauts, people saw it for the first time when we held the European Championships in Medway Park. And said, yeah, we want to have a go at this. And interestingly, the players have become fans of the game and all got Watch NRL contracts. And you get into conversations now with people with Kent accents, talking about whether I think Gareth Widdop's a good player or not, which of course he is. But,
I hope they cancel those Watch NRL contracts now that the World Cup's been postponed. We'll get on to that in a bit, because this is a big game this weekend. Leeds, obviously, the reigning Betfred Wheelchair Challenge Cup holders against the Argonauts. It sounds like the way you've described this, Leeds are going to be the heavy favourites coming into this one.
They've got a stable team, and they play so well, and they're very, very structured. And every player knows what they're doing, and if somebody's not in the right place, another player will fill in. And they've also got great skill. They've got exciting players. So Tom Halliwell runs the show from the middle of the field, and flying off him, he's got like Nathan Collins and Josh Butler, who are, extremely skillful attacking players. And you've got the energy and hard work of Jody and James, and Ewan Clibbons comes on, and they've just got the right balance of a rugby league team. Recognisable in the way you would have with a running game team, with pivots and middles and edges, and they just work well, and are a very, very good outfit.
The last time we saw you live was at the international against Wales. I think again, it's important to stress to viewers and listeners that please do watch it if you can on the BBC, but even more so, get to a game, because you really don't appreciate what it's like. And one of the things that I hadn't understood until I went was it's probably the fastest form of rugby league going, because there just are no stoppages. There isn't somebody who feigns cramp near the posts when it's time for a goal line dropout. This is 80 minutes that never ever stops. The only break in that England-Wales game was to repair a wheel that flew off, and that took about 15 seconds.
Yeah. So for those people who are new to the game and will see it for the first time, it's red button. And or BBC website 12:30 on Sunday. We work really, really hard to keep it faithful to what we call the running game. So it's 80 minutes. A forward pass results in a turnover of the ball. You can have a drop kick at goal if you want. So everything that's 10 metres is 4 metres. So instead of a 20-metre restart, it's an 8-metre restart. And if you kick it dead, which is like a volleyball serve, if you like, or a punch with the ball, it's a 7-tackle set. So all of the rules you would anticipate and expect are there. To go back to the speed thing, we've with the England team this year, we've got great support from the England Performance Unit, which is a strong representation from Leeds Beckett University, but other parts of the game as well. And Dave Banks is our analyst. Most people would recognise Dave from his time sitting next to Sean Wayne at Wigan. And he's enabled us to break down the game. And the average speed of a play the ball in the running game is around 8 or 9 seconds, even when it's slowed down a bit and you have a bit of a wrestle. Ours is 3. So 3 seconds from making the tackle, which is the removal of a tag worn on the shoulder, to actually playing the ball, so tapping it on the ground and making the pass, is 3 seconds. So we have double the amount of tackles, double the amount of sets, and you're right, it doesn't stop.
Yeah, I think the thing that impressed me and Phil the most was how quickly players could put those tags back on their shoulders. It just seemed to, as they say, the skill level on the show is ridiculously high. I mean, we saw in that England-Wales game, it was a big win for England in that test match, but it will have shown people for the first time, probably on TV, and for me and Phil in the ground, just how skillful the game is.
Yeah, it was a good test. Wales held us for periods of the first part of each game and made England work. What's different with places like the English Institute of Sport at Sheffield and Medway Park is full-size pitches, which are expensive. If you're playing on a basketball field, it's 6 metres shorter, 2 or 3 metres narrower. Consequently, the game becomes quite tight. As soon as you get on a big pitch, you get big spaces behind the defensive line. But on the skill level, we practice tagging up. So in the way with the running game, a tackle player must regain his feet and then put the ball on the ground. You must re-tag yourself before with downward motion of playing the ball. So we practice it, both hands. And the best players can do it both ways. In the way with the running game, you can do it with both feet. And it does make a difference. So the 4 metre thing, the defensive line has to be 4 metres back. You can have a marker if you wish, but if you can play the ball before they're set, the referee or the match official may call them offside, stay out. So, and you have that ability to get that roll on in exactly the same way.
I think the other thing about the skill is something that has been used to promote this cup final is a clip from a try that was scored in that international against Wales, which even professional rugby league players who perhaps haven't been exposed to the levels that you talk about are now retweeting and saying, this is just ridiculous. And that's a try by Tom Helliwell just on half time. Yep. Where he chips over himself and then throws himself out of his wheelchair to try and get the touchdown, which he does just inside the backfield marker, and flips himself back up again. We all were there aghast, and you probably thought, I see that 10 times in every training session.
Well, we just have to be accurate. The try you're talking about is Joe Coyd. It was Joe Coyd who did that and not Tom Helliwell.
Didn't want to mention the Coyds, to be honest, because it just gives you another license to puff your chest out even more.
So the try you're talking about, which has been retweeted, is actually by Harry Brown from the European Championships in 2015. And Jack Brown and the Brown brothers played for England, which is a a unique part of our sport in that Harry lost his legs to meningitis as an 18-month-old baby, and his brother Jack, who was awarded the Golden Boot as the best player in the world, Jack's not disabled, yet they can both play for their country and wear their shirt with pride. And I remember that try vividly. We couldn't believe it watching it from the technical area, and I saw a man in the corner filming it on his phone, and I ran down and said, "You must not leave the building until I've got a copy of that video," because I reckon, and it's got everything, the positioning of the match officials, the try before that, it's as freakish as that Ben Barber one from Australia a few years ago, and again sets rugby league apart. And for me, I'm just thrilled that our game is as exciting and as skillful as the running game.
It's not as exciting, it's more exciting, and the bit that we haven't talked about, and it's great actually, there's more than one try that we're all drooling over. Just again shows how impressive the sport is the physical side of things, the collisions, and the sound of them when you're in that enclosed court. Just phenomenal. Even when they're warming up and they're banging into each other, it sounds amazing. But when there are two players going for the same ball and they collide, it is phenomenal sport. I don't know why I'm selling it to you. You know that.
Yeah, so I stumbled into it by accident in 2009 in a reception in Portcullis House, which is the House of Commons offices. When the England team had come back from the World Cup, there was Australia, France, and a team called Barbarians, which was, I think, people who were there, they said, get in a chair and play. And without anybody knowing what had gone on, they came back with this trophy, and I said, I must have a look at this, and we decided to do it at Medway Dragons, and I became involved in it in that way. And with the Medway Dragons story, I spoke to the local council and said I want to do wheelchair rugby league, and they got interested like I did and invested in 12 chairs, and we're still using them now, 12 years later. And they're a bit bashed and bent, but we still play with them, and this opportunity to play, we all love our game and we all call it the greatest game, but the ability for anybody to play it, male, female, young, old, legs, no legs, people with disabilities from birth, people with traumatic injuries, people with debilitating injuries that's getting worse, doesn't matter. Get in the chair and play. And the chair is a great leveler. So people who are full-time chair users have got brilliant skill, automatic brilliant skills, and the non-chair users have to work hard to lose them and their perhaps handling skills, and it tends to balance out. And I'm coaching a young girl at the moment, and I said to her, "Are you enjoying rugby league?" And she said, "Yeah, the boys pass to me." What do you mean by that? She goes, "When I play basketball, nobody passes to me because my job is as a defender, and I just defend the opposition, and there's some other people who do all the passing." And I said, "You haven't got time to do that in rugby league. You've just got to be in full motion all the time." And the physicality in defence is, yes, it's chair on chair. There's very little body on body stuff, but it hurts, and you get very, very fatigued. And the stuff we love about the running game, where you've got to be able to perform or execute a skill when fatigued and under pressure, is the same. And that's when the special stuff comes out, and you see the great players emerge.
I think Scotland invited us to go to a training session. Unfortunately, Scotland's miles away, so I couldn't go. But having seen the game live now, I've said this to Phil, and I can't remember if I said it on the podcast, I think it'd be disrespectful to try and have a go, because there's no way I could have a go at this sport, which you need to be extremely skillful and extremely fit, of which both I am neither. The comparison will always be drawn, Martin, with wheelchair rugby, which is in the Paralympics, but looks nothing like rugby union. Wheelchair rugby league is rugby league just sat down in chairs.
Yeah. So wheelchair rugby was invented in sort of the late 60s, 70s in North America, and the Americans and the Canadians remain very strong. Four-a-side, round ball, you bounce it, you can pass forward if you want. And to score a goal, you push your chair through two sort of road cones. So it bears no resemblance, aside from the collision, to the skills and laws of the game you would see in rugby union. whereas our game is absolutely faithful. The only thing we don't do is scrums, much the same as the running game right now. You know, if there's an infringement or you kick the ball out of play, it's a turnover. And we have something called controlled restart, play the ball, which allows the defence to get set 4 metres away and off you go again. But, you know, we have drop goals, conversions, we have the 2-part penalty, you can bang it into touch and then 4 metres in, crack on and go again.
People obviously saw the test match between England and Wales. They've got the opportunity to see this game on the BBC at the weekend. How important is that coverage in terms of the growth of the sport, and where can wheelchair rugby league go in the future?
It is massive to have the BBC and just support us. And you know, they're really putting their money where their mouth is. By the way, the players are just, you know, taken aback by it. Wow, I'm on the BBC, and it was available on the iPlayer for a month afterwards, and you know, all manner of people were commenting about it and doing that. And you know, I must pay tribute to the Rugby League World Cup team, and John Dutton has been a great supporter of us since 2013 when we staged it for the first time in the UK. And this inclusive nature, you know, and there's 3 colours and 3 different cups, and they commissioned new World Cups for wheelchair and women, which resemble the Running Game Cup. And that really strong message is this really is a game for everybody. That sort of groundbreaking thing makes it special. And, you know, people like me with our enthusiasm, you know, keep it going. But then the reality dawns when people can see it. And our grand final, which is at the end of the season, late September, was covered on our league. Maybe it'll be on BBC again this year. Going back to Rugby League World Cup, the Rugby League World Cup Legacy Fund has funded 70 wheelchairs this year. By way of example, there's a new team at Sheffield who were launched on the Monday after the test match there, and they've now got over 40 players. They've got capacity issues of people going, wow, how good is this? Wakefield are a new team on the block and part of the Wildcats Foundation, or not called the Wildcats anymore, part of the Wakefield Trinity Foundation. And you know, we've got 20 clubs right now across the UK. So we work very much in harmony with the Scots and the Welsh, and their clubs participate in the English League, as it were. And my vision is to grow it to 40 clubs by 2025. And we want to target areas like Cumbria, Newcastle. South Wales have started. Gareth Keir and his guys have recognised what it can do. The South West is a target area, and also Dublin and Belfast. So 4 conferences of 10, with 2 leagues in each conference, promotion and relegation between them, a national playoff between top 1 or 2 from each of the conferences. We'd then have a regional competition, which would be the trials for the England and the other international teams. And we've got this opportunity to have wheelchair rugby league as a genuinely nationwide partnership. We're getting stronger in Europe with Norway, Spain, Italy joining France. David Butler, who's the general manager of the European Rugby League, is a huge enthusiast and thrown himself into refereeing this year so he can learn the game. And there's a light at, well, it's not at the end of a tunnel. I don't feel like we're in a tunnel, but there's a target of perhaps 2032 in the Brisbane Olympics, when we may get the opportunity to showcase our sport to the whole planet.
It sounds as though you've got a plan, which is so un-rugby league-like. It comes as a bit of a shock. You mentioned, obviously, the BBC coverage. You mentioned the World Cup, and the two were interlinked, that clearly the BBC were doing some trials at the England-Wales game for how they would feature the game. You've mentioned the legacy. You've also said that Leeds are a form team. That might be because they've got quite a few players that have England representation at the moment. How much does this delay to the World Cup by a year affect you? How can you make best use of that time? Will there be some players who get denied the opportunity to play, or does it give you more chance to perhaps build an even better squad to actually win the thing?
Yeah, the latter. The announcement on, I think it was Thursday last week, wasn't a great surprise to me. There wasn't much intent and activity coming from the Australians, so we sort of had it at the back of our minds, and we were controlling the controllables, if you like. I do know during our preparation, we recognised that we only had a certain capacity to get stuff done around nutrition and sleep and physical side of things. And we sort of held back a bit. We've now got another 15 months. So we have a staff meeting in early September, and everybody's away thinking now about what they would like to have done, what they'd like to do again, what do we need to fit in. And for me, it's a great opportunity. And it's looking likely we're going to be playing test matches against France in mid-October, in France against France. So that will give us the opportunity to just look at ourselves and how far we've come since coming back into training following COVID. So that's great. This year's not gone to waste at all. And then we have an off season. Players need a rest, and everybody needs a rest. But we can think during that off season and really work hard in 2022 with less restrictions than before, and just be the best we possibly can be come the end of 2022. So I see it. It was a short period of disappointment and frustration. Now we're all really excited about where we might get to.
In terms of the world ranking order, safe to say that you may have gone into this World Cup as favourites, but actually it's France who came up with the rules that hold the World Cup, that you beat for the first time on their soil not too long ago. You've had an Ashes series, which you won, which again we shouldn't forget hasn't happened in the running game for 50 years. Genuinely, do you think that you'll keep the same venues, because the Copper Box was immensely exciting to get everybody playing there, and also is this England's best chance of winning a World Cup?
I took the team to the Copper Box during our preparation process and watched some young men, eyes nearly pop out of their head that it was empty at the time. We're going to play in there. So I'm really hopeful we can retain the same venues. And, I sort of read the papers. I think the competition might move forward a couple of weeks. So, yes, on that score. France are seeded number one. We lost by 2 points in the World Cup in 17. We won it by 4 in the Euros in 15, and we lost it by 4 in the World Cup. All done in the last minute. One of them was golden point try. So we've played them in 3 finals, and they're ahead 2-1 on victories. But there's 2 points between us. We've beaten them. So I've beaten them outside of competition 3 times. And they've beaten us 3 times. So we're absolutely balanced. And it's brilliant. It's the games, the players are matched, the games are matched. There's a really healthy and predictable Anglo-French challenge. I know there's some people who get out of bed half an hour earlier so they can dislike me for longer. Yeah, that's just a really exciting thing, and I can't wait for October.
Phil, we're running short on time, so have you got any other exciting questions before we wrap up?
Well, none of my questions are exciting, but I'm just fascinated by Martin's involvement in the sport. We had Rob Bergin on a week or so ago, and again, absolutely a pioneer. I don't think we should forget the contribution you've made to Armed Forces Rugby League as well. Probably haven't got time to discuss all of that, but I know you're from Warrington, and somebody's got to be a Wolves fan, but why this passionate evangelistic zeal for armed forces and then wheelchair rugby league?
I'd also like to throw in London Rugby League as well. I was chair of the competition there, and I think it's when it's difficult and people say you can't do it. You can't play it in the army, you can't play it in a wheelchair, and you're not allowed to do it in the south and London. And I love the challenge of that. But rugby league is a people's game. It's about people, and forgive the use of the cliches. And where I get enjoyment is by being able to use the energy and the skills I might have to give an opportunity for people to do something they didn't think they could do, or play test matches in Australia or in the Copper Box, or the armed forces thing I'm hugely proud of. And if ever there was a game designed for soldiers, it was rugby league. It fits that mentality really well of you don't give up, you don't show your hurt, and you fight on until the very end. And you got to be skillful, you got to be smart, and you got to be disciplined. So it's just the perfect fit. So it's normally when somebody says no, or you'll never be able to do that, or it's not possible. Well, we'll see about that. And I just have the privilege to spend time with the most wonderful people, and we have a lot of fun at the same time. We, as well as working really hard, we try our best. We do try and have a laugh as well. You sort of compared me with Robert. Robert's frustrated, and I've read his article and heard it fantastically well. In Wheelchair Rugby League, we've got the most wonderful support from the governing body. John McMullen, Mark Lovering from the community and development sides are just brilliant. We have a strong relationship with Ralph, who turns up as often as he can, with John Dutton, Nigel Wood before them, and the RFL board were there in force at the test match, and the RFL board are going to be there on Sunday supporting the game. We had a hardship fund, an inclusion fund, which was made available to us through the period of COVID. And the fact that we provide opportunities for people who don't often have them, disabled groups, and just puts us in a great place. And I just feel really well supported, and we've got lots of people behind us.
Time is going to beat us. I swear Phil was going to ask, is it your year, when he mentioned Warrington there as his final question, but he's too smart.
If it's not this year, it's next year.
Martin, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy Sheffield, a great sporting city. Hopefully plenty of support there on Sunday. I can't be there because I've got to work, but I'll be sneaking a watch on the red button. May the best team win.
Indeed.
So we're not going to be there, Phil, because I'm working. You've got a magazine to put together, but it should be a great spectacle, regardless of the result, because again, people will be seeing something for the first time. If like me, you've been watching the Olympics for the last few weeks and just been flicking through all the channels trying to watch any random sport, now people who do that will be watching something that they've never seen for the first time, and they'll see the collisions and hear the collisions as we did, and go, what's going on here? And then they'll see the skill, and then they'll see the Leeds Rhinos versus the Argonauts, which is a great name for a team.
I think they're the Skeleton Argonauts, which is even
apparently
better.
So, yeah. The Argonaut Skeleton Army or something, yeah.
And they've got skeletons on their kit. It's really... But no, I think I was bowled over, as I think you were when we were there live. If you're watching it on telly, I think we know that the commentator's pretty good. He'll describe the action exceptionally well. Martin, I believe, is going to do the summarising, so there's going to be technical knowledge there as well to explain what you're watching. But no, I think the interesting thing about what he was saying was the World Cup, because you quite rightly started this conversation saying we needed a rant last week, and maybe the waters have stilled a little bit. But the truth is that if you're looking for positives, Martin just gave us 2 or 3 on the wheelchair side, where I thought he would be saying it's a bit of a disaster for us. We this was our moment. We were going to be on the BBC. We were going to be at the Copper Box. We were going to be in Liverpool. We were going to have a profile that we'd never had before, and we were going to win it because we were determined that we weren't going to let the French do us this time. But actually, from what he says about what they can now do to prepare even better, I'm even more excited now that maybe there are some positives to having this World Cup in 2022. And if you do get the chance to either roll your tickets over because you've already bought them, or you didn't think about maybe a wheelchair option when you put your wish list together, and the dates are going to change because they have to because of the other international sport that's scheduled, then if it suits you now and you can go and see a game of wheelchair rugby league at the highest level, the international level, I cannot recommend it highly enough. And as he said, there's a grand final to come at the end of this year as well. So if you can get along, do.
Apart from the fact that it looks like there will be relegation, and which is irrelevant, and we can't. There's no point in discussing it anyway. And structures, because we're going to do that in a few weeks anyway. But I can't buy into this argument that Leeds should be allowed to stay up because they're rubbish. They haven't won any games. And they made the choice to apply for Super League. Would we be saying the same if it was fair? It's just nonsense arguments. Anyway, the good news today is the good people at Betfred have extended their sponsorship deal for the Challenge Cups, plural. This weekend, the Wheelchair Challenge Cup, the men's and women's. The finals moving to White Hart Lane next year because Wembley's unavailable. From a negative, a positive comes because we're all looking forward to go there for the Ashes. That Mark Wilson fella tweeted today. He's reported there on the football there. He says it's brilliant. He said there's jars of sweets or something in the press, but there probably might not be now, actually, post-COVID. But what? I know, exactly. But was it Pick and Mix or was it Arsenal? I can't remember. There's Pick and Mix at one of the football grounds in London. Might be Arsenal, actually. But new stadium to go to. People already moaning because it's the smaller capacity when we don't sell out Wembley anyway. But it's going to be great to go to a new venue, and I think it's on the train lines. It's easy to get to, blah, 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 blah. I can't see a negative in this, apart from it's Sod's law that Wakefield will get there the year we're not at Wembley. But
yeah, but even that wouldn't matter because they could win it in the year it was at White Hart Lane. I think the important thing about all of this is that the Challenge Cup needs to go back to May. We've spoken many a time about why has it lost its lustre, and one of the key reasons for that was having it on August bank holiday weekend actually prevents people from going, particularly neutral fans, rather than encourages them so to do it. It cuts out the whole of the school market. Because clearly they're in the last few days of their summer holidays. So it had to move back to May. I think that gives a better shape to the season because you've then got a major event at the beginning. You've got Magic, I would imagine, in the middle and Old Trafford at the end. The 1895 Cup, we banged on about relentlessly saying this could be the start of something really important. So to have, again, a focused weekend at the start of the season where we will get that feel of more and more shirts at a showpiece game rather than just the supporters of the 2 or 4 clubs that happen to be there may have to happen. It just so happens that, again, because of all the adjustments being made in the sporting calendar for 2022, particularly soccer-wise, where they've got to finish a bit earlier, start a bit earlier, have a break to get the World Cup in Qatar, Wembley's not available this year. Well, I will, if I was wearing a hat, I would take it off to the RFL for putting in the new White Hart Lane as an alternative. I think it's a fantastic state-of-the-art venue. I'm told it even has its own brewery there. It's other sports are using it, like American football. I think as you get to a certain age, you get excited when you can tick a new one off your venue list. It's never quite the same going to a Wigan as it was the very first time you went to Central Park, and we have got excited about going to places like Perpignan, and Toulouse maybe next on the agenda, and now we get White Hart Lane, and you're right, we were all looking forward to going there this year. No, it would have been the end of last year for the Ashes. We're excited about hopefully still being able to go to Arsenal for a World Cup semi-final. This is great, and I think, again, you do build the World Cup into this. It's now moved to 2022, so you have a big event at a football stadium at the beginning of 2022. Brilliant. I mean, who's to say that Wembley now won't come back on the agenda as a World Cup venue? It could well do that. No, I'm excited. Anything that is state of the art, anything that's going to excite fans, and I think the players will buy into it. That it may be the one and only chance to play at a ground like this. How exciting is that? Well, and we took the Challenge Cup on the road when we had to, when the new Wembley was being rebuilt, and we had some fantastic days as a sport in Cardiff and at Murrayfield. Not so much at Twickenham, which is understandable. But no, this is just another one where I think actually the RFL deserve a real big tick in a box for pulling this off.
Well, there's been far too much positivity about the RFL on this podcast. People are going to complain that we're in their pocket. What would be good, and I meant to mention this to Martin, we ran out of time, was they could play on the NFL pitch, which I understand is 3G or 4G or whatever. Just stick a wheelchair rugby league pitch in the middle of it and play that before the match. Been off the 1895, saw that now, it doesn't matter about that. Wheelchair rugby league's where that's at. I don't know if they'll play on the NFL pitch or the grass pitch. I guess if it's the end of the football season, they can use the grass and get rid of it. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the interesting thing about the wheelchair rugby league, and again, I missed this opportunity for a dig. When they're playing a basketball pitch, it must be like playing at Odsall these days.
Ha ha ha.
But there you go. So yeah, some positivity this week, excitement.
Yin and yang. We're balancing what happened last week with we've got over it. I thought last week was relevant. I don't think it was for the sake of it. Again, I don't know what sort of feedback it's had, but hopefully people felt that some of the points that were being raised, even if they didn't necessarily agree with everyone, was the kind of discussion that we've always wanted this programme to be. My mum told me off for swearing, so yeah.
My mum don't watch. If it was for the sake of it, I would have said plenty of things that I still can't say, but I probably said too much at points anyway. But we said it. It's out. Don't mind. It's out there in the open. People know. It's good. I mean, people don't like Wembley anyway. So the morning now it's not at Wembley when it's at somewhere else. Play in the north. Or play at the John Smith or something. Yeah, great. So it there. Great. I mean, I like the John Smith, but still.
I think the other thing you said that is relevant is it's a slightly lower capacity, isn't it? It's about 64,000.
Yeah, like that, yeah.
So the onus is on all of us to fill it, and there is no excuses. It's what is it just less than 10% smaller than Wembley. So let's go. There's no excuse now not to sell 64,000 tickets, irrespective of the teams that are there.
If the NFL, if it's good enough for them, then it must be good enough for us. So we'll see what happens. Will we be the first rugby game that's played? I think we will as well. I don't think they have played there, have they? I don't know. Because we're still going to be the first one to play at the Emirates. I can't remember. Anyway, regardless, we're excited. It's good. We're not talking about the games.
Our mojo's back, isn't it?
Because Leeds lost to Cass, it was exciting. Then Wakefield lost, and I can't remember what else happened last week.
Teams have won and teams have lost, and that's happened, and it's going to happen virtually every round.
When they decide that they're going to bin off 4 clubs just for the fun of it, what happens if like 1 or 2 of those 4 clubs at the bottom of League One are, Heartland teams? What happens then? Do they come up with a reason not to bin them off?
Well, what happens if in relegation positions next year, if they were to go if they were, and I don't think they're now going to go to 4 to be relegated, what happens if those 4 teams were Leeds, Wigan, St Helens and Warrington? Because it could have happened.
We're going to just sign someone and break the salary cap like they did last time. You can't ban me because it was true. They did it. The Cass fans, they get like it or lump it, the top table Cass, you're binned off. Never mind. So we're all excited. I think we'll be back on Monday, won't we? I think.
No, I'm not around on Monday.
Are you not around on Monday?
I've just told you that live and perhaps should have sent you a text.
That's all right. That's fine. I mean, we can do it another time. We'll do it some point next week when something happens. We've got to do it the week after because we've got guests.
We need to plan for our guests.
Yeah.
And can I just remind everybody that Rob Burrows' book is out next week, and if you get the chance to buy it, please do.
He's popping in to see you, isn't he?
He is, all being well. But that wasn't a plug for us and our.
No.
It was, please read the book, because I have seen a copy and it's a fantastic read.
And the magazine goes to print this week. So has everyone written their things? Has everyone...
You know who hasn't written their things yet.
She's like a constant character on this programme, even when she's not here. Like she was in my column last week. She's not in the column this month, though. So
it'd be nice if she had her own column this month. That reminds me. Hello.
I didn't realise that the Women's Super League was back last week, so I missed the opportunity to go watch Wakefield and Warrington or whoever we lost. Oh, no. Did we play? Oh, Fev. Wakefield and Fev. I think Wakefield played.
Was that the first game of the new part of the season or the last game of the old part?
It's part of the new season because I think we've played Fev before, but I've lost track of what's going on. And it's the women's semi-finals this week. Good luck in the South. Good luck to all 4 of those teams. I assume there's 4 teams in the semi-finals. You never know these days, but...
I believe there are.
Yeah, so, it's good. It's good, I think. Leeds have now got to win some games again because they're back on 0. Same as where Wakefield are, in fairness. So it was all pointless. Never mind. It wasn't pointless. Phil, thank you. What's the thing I have to say? We've done everything. And but we'll be back at some point in the future. You're not bothered. We'll just turn up whenever. You don't care anymore.
Part of the excitement, not knowing when we're going to be doing it.
We're like the Super League fixtures. But
You never know when it's coming along.
No, I don't like the whole derby. We don't get postponed 4 times. But is that Saturday? Is it? I don't know. I know Wigan sent out a tweet about it today saying our derby's better than yours. I don't care.
It's next week, but
care more about Cass and Kev.
Asterisk against everything at the moment. It's next week unless.
Thank you for watching. Enjoy the Wheelchair Challenge Cup final on the BBC. Make sure you watch it. Read Bob Burrow's book. Subscribe to 4020 magazine. Like our podcast. Leave a review. I'm supposed to do this. You know, if you ever listen to professional podcasts, of which this isn't one, they say things like subscribe to our podcast and leave a review, and please tell all your friends. But we're still second behind the Super Leagues podcast in the rugby chart. So no one at the BBC knows that they've got to change to rugby, but so we're officially we're bigger than them because they're not on the rugby chart. But don't tell Dave Woods. Don't tell him. Because I assume Dave Woods is like me. He presents it and then puts it on, iTunes himself. That's how the BBC works, isn't it?
I think they might have people.
We don't. See you next time.
Ta-ta.